On today's episode, we will discuss and debate what the Jets, Blackhawks, and Blues have that Nashville doesn't. It's coveting time in the Central.
You're Locked On Predators, your daily podcast on the Nashville Predators, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Predators podcast. Thanks for making us your first listen of the day. We are, of course, a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to kick off this week shouting out our Locked On Predators insiders community and our everydayers who tune in to talk Nashville Predators hockey with us. I'm Ann Kimmel. I am a writer and co-host with Penalty Box Radio. And my friends, I have a partner in crime.
You do. I am Emma Lingan, and I'm an NHL reporter and host with the Hockey News.
While Nashville may have one free agency on July 1st, 2024, there has been plenty of losing since then. Today, we are going to take a look around a very competitive Central Division and identify one element from our mortal enemies that would significantly improve the Nashville Predators. Before we dive into all of that, do want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, Emma, I almost introduced you as my much more tanned partner in crime. Just break it to me gently. How was the beach?
It was good. It was lovely. I wish I had looked at what the UV index was the days that I was on the beach, because there was plenty of cloud cover, but still got plenty of sun. I'm looking maybe a little tan in the face, but a little pink everywhere else. So, yeah, definitely wear sunscreen, even if there's cloud cover. Friends,
Yeah.
That's your PSA from Locked On Predators.
Yeah, it sneaks up on you. Like the
does.
sunburn sneaks up on you. Yeah. I just want you to know that while you were enjoying the beach, I went through something very traumatic. I started binge watching a random show on Amazon Prime called Legacy. And here's what happened. A, it jumped the shark. And then B, the show was canceled without resolving the shark jump. So I have been living in angst over just this horrible experience I had trying to binge watch a show while you were at the beach. So A, to the actors in Legacy, you all were amazing. B, to the writers, what were you thinking introducing Charlotte? And C, whoever canceled this, like my life, what is my life even anymore? I have no idea what happened to this family. So I'm working through that.
Now I know when I go looking for another show not to watch Legacy. So thank you for that.
It was so good. It was so good until it wasn't. And then you're just waiting for it to fix. And then it just got canceled. And so you're just left. It kind of felt a little bit like the end of the Nashville Predators season. You're just sort of left going, what the hell just happened to me? And how can I make peace with it? Yeah, that's actually sadly the perfect segue into the podcast today. To quote one of my favorite musicals, as the good book says, that's from Fiddler on the Roof, y'all. We are not to covet our neighbor's house, our neighbor's spouse, our neighbor's donkey, our neighbor's oxen, our neighbor's beach vacation. But even the Message version doesn't say that we cannot covet something from a Central Division rival team. So Emma and I are going to take a look around the Central Division, and we are going to lean into the covetousness. I think that's how you say that word, the coveting of one element of each of the teams in the Central Division. One thing that we wish Nashville had from each of the teams in the Central Division that could possibly make a difference for how this next season turns out for us. And Lord knows we would like a good outcome. So we're going to kick it off, Emma, with the President's Trophy winning Winnipeg Jets, which is still kind of an odd sentence for me to say, but it is what it is. What do you wish Nashville had that Winnipeg has? Is there one thing that you're like, man, Nashville would get so much better if they had this from Winnipeg?
I think when you look at Winnipeg, everyone talks about goaltending, and that's the one area in Nashville that, again, if you've listened to the show, I'm not concerned one bit about goaltending in Nashville. So I think I would have to go like depth, like forward
Yeah.
depth in Winnipeg. I think that they don't have like for example, if we were talking about the Minnesota Wild, what I covet
Mhm.
there is they have a clear number one superstar in Kirill Kaprizov. They have
That
that
sound amazing.
superstar. I mean, I can only imagine what that would be like to have a superstar goal scorer like that. So you've got your one guy. Winnipeg doesn't really have that one guy,
Mhm.
especially now that they don't even have Nikolai Ehlers anymore, who was close-ish to kind of being that guy, and they don't even have him anymore. But I don't know. I think it's just the depth of scoring there, and
Yeah.
knowing that they've got it's not all just veterans. They've got a really good blend of youth and veterans there that, I think just meshes really well together up front.
Yeah. You and I are on the same page. And just for the record, Emma and I don't talk about this kind of stuff ahead of time. So it's just a fun little surprise. But we're on the same page because I am right there with you. For me, if I had to pick one player to represent that, please pass the Gabriel Velarde. Especially on the power play, because again, like you said, you have this younger player, 25 years old. He is had a very successful season, 71 games, 27 goals, 61 points. I loved him on the power play. You've got this 25-year-old who had 12 power play goals, which is the most of anybody on Winnipeg's power play. And remember, the Jets had the number one power play in the entire league. And this 25-year-old was their leading scorer. He had 25 power play points. And then you look at Nashville, and if you look at the average age of Nashville's top power play unit, friends, it's like 34 years old. So you've got this 25-year-old who is coming into his own at 5-on-5. He's also a major contributor on special teams. And I'm like, wouldn't that be amazing if we had that kind of youth blended in with the 5-on-5 play, but especially I look at him on the power play. You look back at the games, I went back through and rewatched the highlights of Winnipeg, Nashville, and you see, he was one of the top scorers on the power play in the matchups between Nashville and Winnipeg. And you just see he does it all. Like, he's there for kind of that backdoor tap in. He skates to the slot for a redirect. He's everything you want to see, and he's 25 years old. So for me, it'd be like if Luke Evangelista suddenly got a shot on the first power play unit, which I don't think is going to happen this season, and became the most productive goal scorer for them. Friends, I would love that. Nashville needs those 25, 26, 27, 28, 29-year-old goal scoring players, and they don't have it.
Well, that's kind of what I was just thinking as you were talking just now. You're saying, oh, they've got this 25-year-old leading their power play. You could have ended that sentence as 20, he's got a 25-year-old. You've got a 25-year-old.
Yes.
Like everyone in Nashville is either like 22 or 35. It's like
Yes.
there's nothing in between. And you need that age group for that crucial, like, now and not yet. You need someone there to bridge that gap. And we've talked about that a lot. And, even Evangelista, sometimes I think we forget how young he is just
I
because
do.
he has been up for so long. But it's like he's only 22, 23. So he's still young. I mean, that 25, you're kind of just starting to enter your prime there. You're not a newbie anymore, but you're not a veteran. It's right at that sweet spot. And Velarde was an RFA this year. Winnipeg just signed him or
Yeah, they
re-signed
did.
him for 6 years. So they're going to have him until he's 31, which even then isn't that old. And so I think that, like that is just having that kind of controllable talent at that age for that time frame in general. Like, even if you take the power play stuff is great, the goal scoring is great, but even if you take all that out of it, just having that kind of controllable time frame for a 25-year-old player with a lot of upside is a really positive thing. And that's something that I certainly covet if I look at Winnipeg.
Yeah, I would take that. And I'm with you, just the presence of a productive 25-year-old at 5-on-5, let alone power play. And this is a guy who, it's not like this past season was a flash in the pan. He's had 3 20-plus goal seasons. And again, did we mention he's 25? Man, Nashville, there's a gap there. And a player like Velarde, I would take that. But here we are. That's not happening. Speaking of the Winnipeg Jets, they had one of the best playoff series against another Central Division rivals, the St. Louis Blues. Coming up, we're going to talk about what the Blues have that would improve the Predators' chances for the postseason. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. So how can you find amazing candidates fast? It's easy. Just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. If you are in that spot where you need to hire, you know the pressure's on, and every day without the right person feels like a setback for your business. That is exactly when Indeed sponsored jobs come in handy. They make sure your post is seen by the right candidates right now. Now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockedon right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. All right, Emma, talking about the Winnipeg Jets. Okay, I got sucked into a vortex trying to cleanse the legacy palette because that went wrong. And I ended up going back and rewatching highlights of the Blues Jets first round series. And I am telling you, that was chef's kiss hockey, just start to finish. So amazing. And it got me thinking about the St. Louis Blues and what do I wish Nashville had that the Blues have? And for me, and I know this is a little nebulous, but go with me on the journey, it is vibes. I wish that Nashville had the vibes going into this season that I think the Blues are going to have. Last season, of course, St. Louis made this big coaching change before Drew Bannister even got like his middle desk drawer emptied out. They had hired Jim Montgomery and signed him to a deal like it was so quick. And then all of a sudden, the page started to turn for the Blues. They were 26-13-4 from January 1st on. They took the Winnipeg Jets to 7 games and a double overtime. They were less than 2 seconds away from moving on to the second round. It was such an incredible series. And I know that it's frustrating for Blues fans that they lost in that first round in that, game 7. But I am telling you this, the St. Louis Blues are going to go into this next season feeling themselves. And I compare what that is going to be like for the Nashville Predators, who still probably have no idea what the hell just happened. They limped to the end of the regular season. They vacationed during the postseason, and somehow they have to come back and put it together and do something. And I'm like, give me the vibes and the energy and the momentum from St. Louis, because Nashville couldn't be further at the opposite end of the spectrum to kick off this next season.
Yeah, the vibes that the Blues have, a little bit kind of what the Predators had coming into the 2024-25 season. It was like they went on that crazy run in the second half. They make it to the playoffs. Now, the Predators playoff series against the Canucks, not quite as exciting as the Blues against the Jets, but I think the vibes were good. Everyone felt really good about this team. And that was even before the
Yeah.
free agency signings. That was like, people were like, okay, all right, like, maybe not going crazy winning a cup next year, but we're on the right track here. And so maybe, I don't even know why I say that. I think maybe it's more like, it's okay, and vibes aren't everything. Don't covet the vibes.
That is a fact. That is a
Vibes are
fact.
fleeting. Vibes are fleeting. So, or
Yeah.
at least they can be. So only time will tell if the vibes stick with the Blues. But for sure, the vibes around the Blues right now, fantastic.
Gosh, yeah.
I will say the Blues are an interesting team, though, because they're one that, kind of like Nashville in a lot of ways, for so many years, it was kind of like, all right, what are we doing here? Because it was like, ever since that, the Stanley Cup in 2019, they've kind of been in that mushy middle where it's like, well, we're not gonna tear it down because we are in, we're within shouting distance of maybe a playoff spot, perhaps. So we're not gonna do anything. But we're also not gonna full send and go for it. So it's like, we're gonna remain competitive, but that's it. And it's like, it very similar to Nashville in that way. So it's one where I'm a little bit like, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to go for them this year. Again, the vibes could be fleeting, or the vibes could be hitting just at the right time. I don't know.
Yeah.
If I were to look at St. Louis, once again, another team that doesn't really have like the big superstar.
Right.
But I look at, again, if I were going to say like one thing I covet from the Blues, it would be like a Jimmy Snuggerud. So they have, a former first round pick. Young, came in, just finished his college career, hopped right in. And not just hopped in, but became a contributor on this St. Louis team, like, pretty quickly. And this is a true breakout candidate. We didn't get a ton of time to look at him just because he joined so late in the year, but like, true breakout candidate, leading contender for the Calder Trophy this season because he is, still a rookie, technically. So, that's, again, it kind of sound like a broken record here, but it's a little bit of like having that young breakout potential talent that kind of like, now again, it's not everything. It could be like a Luke Evangelista where it's like, oh, this kid's got it, this kid's gonna be it, and then you kind of like, well, he's good, he's fine, but we still don't
It's
really
taking
know what he is
time.
yet.
Yeah.
It's taking time. So I am not at all guaranteeing like, oh, this kid is gonna just pop off this year. He very well may, and he very well may not, but it's having that excitement about a young prospect, a forward prospect. I would say that, like, right now, there isn't anyone who I don't know, when I look at Nashville's potential opening night lineup, like, theoretically, of the players who could make that lineup, or realistically, there isn't anyone in the forward group that I'm like, I cannot wait to see what this guy. They're not to say that I don't feel good about anyone in the forward group. Like, yes, I am looking forward to seeing what Fedor Svechkov looks like this year after last year, but I'm not like, oh man, this kid, I don't think Fedor Svechkov is going to be a game changer for this entire offense. I really don't. So it's like, I don't know, having a dynamic scoring talent, a young dynamic scoring talent like Snuggerud is probably what I would envy a little bit.
Yeah. And I love that he came in, like you said, very close to the end of the season, right out of college, and then jumped into the postseason, which, let's be honest, the postseason is a different beast than the regular season in the NHL. And the NHL is a different beast than, NCAA hockey to begin with. And he came into the postseason and he looked like he felt comfortable there. Like you said, he contributed. He was goal scoring. He was everywhere. And I do see what you're saying about we don't have a player that feels the same. Like, yes, a lot of eyes are on Fedor Svechkov, but I think the feeling, and remember, feelings are like farts, but let's be real. The feeling about Fedor Svechkov is not like, can't wait to see what he can do. It's all gravy because there is pressure on Fedor Svechkov. This is a very different feeling, different expectations. With Snuggerud, you're like, there is so much potential. I can't wait to see what he does. With Fedor Svechkov, it's like, he is in an elevated role, and I really hope that he can step into that really quickly. So it's two very different vibes with two young players. I agree with you. He was great. And again, I'm just saying, if you have free time, don't watch Legacy, but do go back and watch the game highlights from that Jets Blues series, because that was such good hockey. Oh my gosh, I loved that hockey. I loved
It
that.
was. And that was a series that really lived up to the hype, I feel like, because it was such an interesting matchup, because you had the Jets, who were the best team in the league for the whole season.
Yes.
And then you had the Blues, who were not the best team in the league the whole season, but they were the hottest team in the second half. And so that's when it really does kind of come down to vibes a little bit. It's like, what's going to prevail here? And again, it really lived up to it. I mean, that went 7 games. I mean, I think and I don't mean to take away from anything that the Blues did, because the Blues played some really good hockey in that series, but I think if maybe the Jets had gotten regular season Connor Hellebuck and not playoff Connor Hellebuck, then maybe it wouldn't have gone 7 games. But either way, very, very interesting series.
Yeah, it was fun as I was watching it back. It was like, knowing what we know now and looking back in hindsight, you could start to see a couple of the little cracks in the Connor Hellebuck armor. Where in the moment and in that series, I don't know that it registered with everybody what that could mean down the road for the Jets. So fascinating series, and I loved watching that. So highly encourage you, if you're like hockey starved, go back and watch the highlights from that series. It was key. You had mentioned with Minnesota, you talked about having a superstar. Just for poops and snickers, don't you just almost want to say having that head coach?
Hey,
just for fun.
We know I am a John Hines apologist here, but
Love him.
Just saying, I'm very happy for him. Very happy for him.
Yep. I'm the same.
Awesome.
I am the same way. So we're going to dance around that. Coming up, there was one team, believe it or not, that was worse than the Nashville Predators in the Central Division, but that does not mean that there isn't something worth coveting when it comes to Chicago. Coming up, we're going to talk about what we wish we had from the Blackhawks. Today's episode is brought to you by our great friends at Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It is an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all of your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNHL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNHL. All right, Emma, we are talking about things that we covet from Central Division teams. And while it may seem odd, there are actually some things that I wish the Nashville Predators had that the Chicago Blackhawks have. And of course, remember, the Blackhawks, take heart, friends. There was one team in the Central worse than the Predators. This season, it was the Chicago Blackhawks. All bets are off on what's going to happen next season. That's a podcast for, 84 years from now. When I look at the Chicago Blackhawks, Emma, here is the thing that I wish we had. I wish the Nashville Predators could have the Ryan Donato experience. And I'm not saying Ryan Donato personally, although I'm sure he's lovely. But I would really like a veteran who pops off in his second season with the team, ladies and gentlemen. And if I could hand pick that player, hey, Jonathan Marchessault, pick up your laundry and pop off. You know?
But first, pick up your laundry. Just
I mean,
first off.
yeah.
Yeah. I would like that. Again, different kind of pop off, I think, but I would like that. Well, I mean, again, from any of the veterans in their second year with the team. I mean, there's no one that I would not like to pop off next year. But I think that a Brady Shea on defense, that would be fantastic. And that one actually feels within reach, like having a veteran in his second year with the team. I mean, we've got 3 big ones to choose from here, people.
Come on, y'all.
I mean, whoever wants to step up. But that's a really good one. I mean, I think the obvious would be like, yeah, I would love Connor Bedard. That would be great. Can I have, please? Thank you.
Yes.
But I think if we're talking about attainable goals, that's a really good one. That's a good one. And you know what? This is really nothing measurable. I would love to have the luck / love of the hockey gods that the Blackhawks have, because come on.
Dude.
You know they're going to have another bad season and they're going to get McKenna next year, and it's going to be McKenna and Bedard, and they're just going to pop off. And they were the worst team in the league. They still got an outdoor game. They still got Bedard. They still nothing bad has ever happened to the Chicago Blackhawks. I mean, it has, but they always get rewarded in the end. So
yeah. No, that's so funny. I feel the same way, there, and again, it is sort of nebulous and it's hard to quantify, but there is something about being recognized, even if your record is as it is, as a serious franchise. And part of that is history. They've got plenty of Stanley Cups in the history. They do have that Connor Bedard, you can see it coming on the horizon with Connor Bedard. Although, can I just take a side road with me? People who are up Connor Bedard's jehuha about his performance last season, that's actually not an anatomical term. Make it mean whatever you want it to mean. I am so over people being critical of Connor Bedard. People saying, oh, just what a disappointing year. Dude, he is 20 years old. Okay. He can't buy a Bud Light. He can't walk around with an open can of Pabst. West Wing fans will understand what that one's about. He is 20 years old and he is carrying a franchise. I'm going to need you all to get off Connor Bedard's back and let him go. Anyway, back to what we were talking about.
I liken that, the people who were, as you said, up Connor Bedard's jehuha. Was that the term? That's a good one. I'll see if I can say it with straight face next time. I think that I liken that to people who were up UC Saros's jehuha last year, saying that, oh, well, the Predators are bad. I mean, obviously, it's this guy's fault. It's no. Hold the heck on, because I think if you look at Bedard, that was funny because I host a show with the Hockey News that covers the whole NHL, and I remember this late in the year last year. I got my show notes from the producer and I'm going over them and I'm like, oh, Connor Bedard's having a bad season. All right, well, let me go look up his numbers. And I was like, he's still producing almost a point per game, and we're saying he's having a bad season?
I mean, come on.
Excuse me. And I'm like, what kind of narrative are we pushing here? And again, it's look, no one thought the Blackhawks were going to be a force last year. They weren't supposed to be. And they're like, well, the sophomore slump. And it's all right, it's the sophomore very good instead of otherworldly. He was still very good last year. So, but here's the thing, back to your earlier point, you can see what's coming. You can see the beginnings of something in Chicago.
Yes.
They need to work on the defense, and I think they could have done a little bit more in that regard. especially after Seth Jones went to Florida. They still
But
need
why
some help
would
on
you
defense.
this year if you're the Chicago Blackhawks?
That's right.
Anyway,
Hey,
conspiracy theory alert.
good things will come to those who are the Chicago Blackhawks. I believe that's how the saying goes. But I
Yes.
think that, you can see what's coming. Now, again, they had that dynasty era with the Jonathan Taves and Patrick Kane. And now, if you think about it, they have their Jonathan Taves and Connor Bedard. Now they just need their Patrick Kane. That's Gavin McKenna. And mark my words, they are going to get him next year. It's going to happen. But that's what I would like, not just for the Predators or hockey, just in my life. I would like to have the good fortune that the Chicago Blackhawks always seem to have. When things go wrong, it never seems to matter. They'll still get rewarded at the end.
There are just some people who walk through life like that. And you're like, at some point, karma. And yet karma is just busy in my life.
A day off.
Sticking it to me.
Yeah. Oh
Yes.
gosh. Yeah.
Yeah. No, there really is something about that with the Chicago. There really is. And I know, I'm sure it's very difficult to get through these tough seasons. But you know what? You have like a Bedard, a young, dynamic player with hope. And Nashville, yes, you and I like what we saw from Brady Martin, but a Brady Martin is a different thing than a Connor Bedard. And not as a criticism, but just as the reality of it. A Brady Martin is a different thing than a Gavin McKenna. It just is. And Nashville, even though we're focused on a not yet, it doesn't look the same for Nashville as it does for the Chicago Blackhawks, who trip and fall into good fortune every time.
Oh, it must be nice to be God's favorite. I wouldn't know what that's like, but
I know.
Good for them.
Yeah. The Chicago Blackhawks know how the show Legacy ended and feel really great about it. And the rest of us
just not
out
telling
here,
anyone.
they're just not telling. And the rest of us out here are just bearing up under it because that is life with the Chicago Blackhawks. Yeah, there's something there. And we're just going to step away from that, but there's something there to that. So what one thing from the Wild, the Blackhawks, the Blues, or the Jets do you think would make the biggest difference for the Nashville Predators? Let us know what you covet from these teams in the Central Division in the comments of this YouTube video. You can also let us know on social media at @LO_Predators. Emma, before we log off for today and circle back to this on the next episode, will you let everyone know where they can find you and your work?
Yes, you can find me on social media at Emma_Lingan, and you can find my work at the Hockey News.
You can find me on social media at @AnnK_Mama on Ice. You can find my work with Penalty Box Radio as well. Friends, that is going to do it for today's episode of the Locked On Predators podcast. We are going to circle back and wrap up the Central Division coveting on the next episode. So make sure you tune in for that. We hope you all have a fabulous Monday. We'll see you back here.